The EU forces Chinese EV manufacturers to raise prices to match EU prices so they get no unfair advantage. Oh, what a great result for the EU. Or is it? Buyers are not now buying EVs at EU inflated prices, and we the buyers will have to pay more than they need to. Is this the right move? What happened to cheap EVs reaching the mass market? Who wins by this? I'm Dave, welcome to Dave Takes It On. In this video we discuss the recent decision by the European Union to drop tariffs on Chinese EVs if they inflate their prices to match EU legacy auto prices. With global trade dynamics shifting, we break down how these changes could affect jobs and prices and affect the economic relations between the EU and China. As I showed in a previous video, a quick look at the Auto Trader finds thousands of pre-registered brand new cars for sale at huge discounts. And before the ICE brigade fall about laughing, they also include ICE cars. And a quick look to America finds dealers absolutely full of ICE cars, massively overpriced and unsold for over a year. Stellantis and VW both declare new profit warnings and reduce sales. And the answer they've all taken to is to move all their cars up to the premium end of the market and increase prices so that when, or if, they eventually sell one, they make a decent profit margin. This is an industry challenge. EVs have not caused this. It was brewing long before they made anything but a tiny blip on the world sales figures. The problem is that as they made better cars and they extended warranties to 5 or even 8 years, the need to swap your car every 2 years simply disappeared. Even fleet managers increased the period before they swapped out their cars. If the reason for swapping every 2 years was reliability, then an 8-year warranty instantly killed that one. Then there was the new exciting model just launched that made the old model instantly obsolete. It just made it look old. But nowadays, the industry cannot innovate because they tend to use shared platforms and shared engines. Just look at someone like Citroën. Once a pioneer, now they just use the PGA hardware. The chassis engine and gearbox are also used in other brands like Peugeot. Even Land Rover now uses a mishmash of engines from the likes of Ford and BMW, and even the Ford engine is a joint venture with PGA, Peugeot Citroën. And if the chassis and engine are the same, then the computers they all use to design the body shells all seem to come up with the same results. Cars have been getting bland for a long time. Also, the internal combustion engines are approaching their peak. Each startling new invention, development seems to add just a few miles per gallon improvement while getting smaller to meet emissions regulations. The sad fact is that the petrol engine car has reached its peak, and the only thing keeping it going is the determination of the legacy auto to do so by not offering their customers any choice. And any who doubt these facts, just look at the success of the Tesla range of cars. While ICE sales are pretty stagnant and in many cases slowly declining, if they launch a totally new, novel, different car onto the market, then the market reacts by buying it in huge numbers, pushing it straight into the top 10 best-selling list each year. The Model Y instantly entered the top 10 and went on to become the world's best-seller ever in 2023. In 2024, it still ranks well ahead of any other car, EV, petrol, diesel or hybrid, even overtaking the best-selling vehicle ever in America, a record held for over 40 years, the Ford F-150 pickup. Now, with the Model Y refresh, the Juniper due out in the next 6 months, it is likely to go on to become the best-selling car of all time ever, currently held by the Ford Model T, with 16 million sold, but that took them 21 years of production. So the industry has been dying for many decades, and the industry answer is to make them even bigger, better, more expensive. Well, how's that working out? The UK top 10 selling list each year is populated by cars costing no more than £30,000. Most are well below 25,000, and a good number are below 15,000. Yet the industry has now totally abandoned the small hatchback market, their bread and butter for decades, with the likes of Polo, Fiesta, Corsa, Escort, Astra, Golf, Focus, the original Mini, and the Metro. So as a business model, this doesn't seem to make any sense. The best-selling cars of all time are all small family cars at a price almost all can afford. Now look at the success of Model 3 and Y. And this is something totally new, different, exciting, and the buying public responds, despite the high prices. These are not budget cars, but they instantly took over the entire market and now hold position 1 and position 2, outselling very much smaller and cheaper cars. It all seems counter-logic. So if the buying public is suffering from inflation, high interest, and massively increased cost of living, why was this such a success? Well, I'm going to leave you to make your own conclusions on that, or should I say conclusion, because the answer is a single, simple fact. So where does this leave the EU? Sales in the EU are pretty stagnant, and the offerings from the legacy auto in EVs are an absolute joke. Look at a Fiat 500 petrol, it's £14,000. Fiat 500 EV, £27,000, twice the price. Vauxhall Corsa petrol, £15,000. Corsa EV, £26,000. It's a 75% hike. VW Polo, £19,000. VW i3, nearest equivalent, £35,000, an 80% hike. And they wonder why they aren't selling. And they blame the Chinese for trying to sell their equivalent EVs to us for £15,000 to £20,000. It is a sad fact for many that people want EVs and want well-specced and equipped ones with all the latest gizmos and gadgets and technology, but they very wisely won't buy the Western versions of outdated tech and boring old designs in any sensible number at all. So what is the answer for Europe? Well, if they persist on their current course of action, the overpriced Chinese EVs will not sell. Well, they won't sell in any number. Not when people know that in China you can get that same model, a really good modern high-tech, high-spec EV for about £20,000 or £30,000, and over here they're trying to flog it to us for more than £40,000. This course of action leads to massive factory closures and loss of jobs. Oh, hang on, we're already there. And that's not what Europe, hovering on the brink of a recession, actually needs. We do not need more factory closures, and we do not need more worker layoffs. The answer is really simple, has already been tried and tested and succeeded massively. The Japanese arrived in the 70s with rubbish offerings, but quickly became among the best in the world. And we embraced that. We entered into joint ventures with the likes of Toyota, and we now have Europe as a major manufacturing hub for Toyota vehicles, and 8 factories employing tens of thousands of Europeans. Honda also appeared in Europe and the UK and were a major manufacturer and employer for several decades, again employing thousands of Europeans. For a variety of reasons, they no longer have factories or workers in Europe. Well, is the answer so difficult? If we work with China, as many legacy auto companies are already doing behind the scenes, we can get China to fund the joint ventures, factories, throughout Europe. If we stop the crazy tariffs and work with them, we can jointly produce great EVs at the correct price for which the market is waiting. We can get the workforce already laid off by Ford and Stellantis and VW and put them back to work in a new industry which has a massive future. After all, if the governments want all cars to be non-polluting EVs, then there is a market out there for nearly 2 billion EVs. Think also of the support industries. The paint shops and wrapping centres, spare parts, modifications, third-party accessories. The list is endless in what could become the next massive employment boom. Ursula von der Leyen thinks only of her own standing in the world. The leader of the EU Commission is not seemingly interested in the population of Europe, in creating jobs, in securing jobs for the workers. Possibly more interested in proving to the world what a brilliant leader she is. But we also see a similar thing with the unions. I'm not against unions, but after a bitter war in America, the unions declared victory in their fight to get their workers a massive increase in wages after years of stagnation, and they deserved it. Once again, many of those workers now have no wage at all, as the factory they used to work for has now closed down permanently. I am not against unions, they have a place, but that place should be to work with the employer and the workers to get a mutually agreed settlement that allows for the long-term success of the business. I remember back in the 70s, the massive strikes at Ford factories. I actually lived near Halewood at the time. They went on strike for months and eventually won their fight. But back then there were almost 60,000 workers, and today the grand total is, it's about 8,000. Well, will the EU listen? No. The EU hates China and would rather go bankrupt on a matter of principle than work with an authoritative, dictatorial ruling body that puts its interest ahead of its population. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. No, surely not. Maybe that's just me. I'm Dave.